No.
Not, right? Okay, so so the last one here is the RULA assessment. So again, this syllabus then covers, you can probably see about 2 to 3 of the main techniques out there. You had the MAC, you had the VMAC. We just saw the ART, and all of them are very much similar, except in the VMAT. The VMAT is like a spreadsheet that you have to enter this stuff in and just click enter anyway. But the MAC was almost similar to this. You had to follow some flowcharts, INDG 383, right? And then you get your scores. So very much similar. The thing different with the ART though is that it had a formula to the end that you must multiply your final score now by how long the activity went on for. All right, now this one, again, I mean, I did look at your book, I have it here. This one is given literally like a paragraph in your textbook, right? But it is much more to it, you know. This one you find this page
283.
283. That's literally a paragraph right there. I mean, it's not even on the whole page because it's in the middle there. On the top of it, you have the video, the NIOSH managed handling materials. At the bottom of it, you have how could you deal with or control those types of, you know, risk anyway. This one though, you know, and I like whenever I teach these things, I still try not to overdo it. So I'll try that today because Mama said I'm not going to do any past papers anyway. But this one though is complicated, right? This one is, I mean, it is not too complicated, but it is more complicated than the others because it follows a series of charts, right? And when I mean a series, a good series of charts that you have to kind of coordinate X and Y, almost like how we did, I think, some of those vibration measurements, right? You have to coordinate it, and the number you get, you input it into another chart, and the number you get from that, you put it into another chart. So if you wanted to, I'll try to stick to what I have on this syllabus here and then try to finish that out. And I do have a video on it, right? I got a video on it that we can probably try to look at the end of the session. And we're almost there. There's someone from somewhere in the UK, they did a nice presentation on it. I think if we were physically in class, I would have wasted the time doing it. But at the same time, I know it's not too much on your syllabus, so I would just try to stick to what we have here and then showing that video as supplementary information for those who really want to do that type of assessment, right? I was thinking about uploading the video as well to the YouTube channel. So I may do that again after I teach it today as well, right? So the name of this type of assessment is called a rapid upper limb assessment, RULA for short. And so they say it's a survey method used for assessing upper limb disorders when reported. Assesses biomechanical and postural loading on the whole body with particular attention to the neck, trunk, and upper limbs. RULA is based on 3 steps, which is kind of similar to most of them. The ART was also 3-step as well. Observing and selecting the posture to assess, and they would recommend videos on pictures and diagrams again. If you were good at sketching or stick persons, you could actually sketch what the person is doing. Scoring and recording the posture, which is the technical piece of telling, because it's not one chart, like, or one set chart, but it's many charts with the numbers from one feeding into a number, but into another set of charts. And then it's all about coordinating the vertical and the horizontal position of that number. Action level, the score is compared to an action list, which leads to a more detailed investigation. So sometimes this is what you need to know just to get the mark on an exam, right? So I guess if you have this PowerPoint, you may want to kind of increase this, maybe expand this, which I wouldn't do though, right? I know I did it on another PowerPoint, but apparently the one I use it here, I left it a bit small, right? Anyway, so this is the RULA assessment chart. doing it though is a little bit more difficult, right? Because this is just the record sheet. This is actually not, this is a record sheet to put your values down, right? You're gonna have a lot of charts to feed into this one chart, right? So I would probably leave that for the video, and it's all about, again, corresponding, you know, figures, right? If you want to take any look at that though, right? You may want to download the whole chart, right? But I suppose after the video, you'll have a good idea if the video runs well on Zoom, right? Some of the Zoom videos, I realize, does normally slow down the pace of the video, right? But if I could try anything there, again, and this is just for the idea of doing it, but for example, it may be best just to learn some stuff, right? So the upper arm, if there's a figure here, one, how they use this, they look at the upper arm and then they would look at like the wrist twists. That this is this word up here, right? Wrist twist. And the figure they get, like if this turns out to be, I guess, a tree, that figure is put into another chart to use in another sort of X and Y, Z kind of comparison, right? But as I said, this one is a little bit difficult. It's not difficult, but it's time consuming to do, given the fact it's really not what we have to do at the diploma level, right? It is nice, but I know a lot of that is touched at the level 7 then. Like if you're doing a dissertation, yeah, you do some of these for like the master's program, right? So for now, again, if you want, you can just take it at our syllabus to know what it is and to know some of the rank and stuff inside of it, right? So the action level you come up with is almost like the art. You have like a guide again, 1 to 2. When you finish and you get your score, you compare it. So 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, right? Level 4 person is working in the worst posture, which is something beyond 6, right? Like I guess 7, 8 and stuff. Person is working in the worst posture with immediate risk of injury, should be investigated and changed immediately to prevent injury, right? So there's a video there. Hopefully I get it, right? And then this was the past paper that we did last week, right? So let me try to find that video. I say that because I had it on the computer, but then as I mentioned, the class before was just completed and I didn't get a chance to load up anything. I literally was just struggling just to get today's PowerPoint, right? To get it to go, right? Let me just see if I get it. And right, so I just need to share this with you all. I guess you're not seeing nothing as yet. No. Let me just get this to go, right? Right, tell me if you're seeing, it will look like the same ruler chart I had up because I paused the video at that point anyway.
Good day and welcome.
Okay, you all have seen any of this?
My name is Theresa Stack and I am.
We see in IH 5686 Advanced Ergonomics.
Great, great. Okay, let me just come down a bit. Right, so this, right, so let me just get back to step 1. So this will take the rest of today's class, but again, like I said, I don't know how much of this is, you know, going to be too much of your exam, but I suppose yeah, I mean, there are no RULA questions on the past paper too, so you can decide what you want to do with this. But this will explain to you how to use the assessment, right? So I'll let it go. And you let me, to the end, have a practical. So I guess I'll stop it there. It have one for you to do. I'll stop it because you may not want to do one. You can just appreciate how to use it anyway. And then when she gets into the practical, I could upload the video then because it have gone through how to do it. And then you could probably do that on your free time. So after that, we'll probably come and close off this session, which is about, by that time, will be almost be time to close off anyway, right? So let's have a look at this.
20 degrees forward and back. We would score a +1 greater than 20 degrees backward, we would score it a +2. Between 20 and 45 degrees forward, a +2. 45 to 90 degrees forward, a +3. And 90 degrees or greater forward, and that would be a +4. Now just try to concentrate on the upper arm only and score it as you would. As well as then you can add extra.
Is the volume okay?
there if the shoulder is raised or the arm is adducted.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Let's slow on my side.
So I scored this a +1 because it seemed this arm was hanging naturally at 0 or maybe less than 10 degrees. So then your second step in the evaluation is to locate and score the lower arm. And the lower arm would be, again, the distance from here to here. So is this person in what we consider the neutral posture between 80 and 110 degrees? Number 0 degrees is down here. Or are they between 0 and 80 degrees or greater than 100? That would be a +2. Or are their arms farther away from their body than the midline? So looking at that limb position, how would you score that person's limb?
Okay, any ideas?
I scored it a +1.
Right, so if you look at the chart, you'll see it's roughly a 1
here to here
compared to the charts.
seems to be pretty much
+1.
Yeah, so you see it here. This is, I mean, it looks more like this first diagram here.
possibly 0 to 80 degrees. There you can put a
Right, I mean, it's not
protractor
2 and
measure
it's
it.
not this one.
But if you
So,
scored it a 2 or even a 2 and you thought they were further from midline, you added a 1 to it, making it a 3. Just score on your sheet as you see appropriate. Again, this is somewhat subjective, and 0 degrees is your neutral position.
right, I'll agree with the 1 though.
So our next step in the evaluation is we're going to take a look at the wrist posture as well as the wrist twist. So if the wrist is flat, we score this a +1. If we have minor deviations, either extension or flexion, no more than 15 degrees, that would be a +2. Severe extension or flexion deviation would make that a +3. And you can score either hand or the hand that's in the most extreme position. So we have a slight wrist deviation here, but especially because we know what the person's doing, they're folding towels, so they would be constantly deviating their wrist. Although they aren't twisting their wrist very much, they're not really at their end range of motion because they can control this motion somewhat. So here's where hopefully you are keeping track and you're able to see from step 1, you would choose the upper arm score, which is a 1. And then step 2, we choose the lower arm score, which was a 1. Our step 3 was our wrist posture score, and I chose a 2. Our step 4 was our wrist twist score. And where all these points come together, our final score for our upper limb, upper arm, lower arm, wrist, and wrist twist is a 2. And we'll save this because we need to enter it into the next part of the form. So we take our 2 and we put it here in step 5. And then we go on and we look at, for this particular portion of the body, so we're only looking at the upper limb. We're not worrying about the rest of the body. We'll deal with that later. This is where we start to add in muscle force. So if the posture is maintained statically for greater than 10 minutes, or if the action is repeated more than 4 times per minute, we'd add a +1 for step 6. If the person is picking up less than 4 pounds, we don't add anything. 4 to 22 pounds, we add a +1. 4 to 22 pounds repeatedly or held statically, we add a +2, and more than 22 pounds repeatedly or with shocks, then we'd add a 3. And so because the postures are definitely held for more than 10 minutes and they are repeated for more than 4 times a minute, I added a 1 here to step 6. But the force is really low. And so our total upper limb score would be our 2 from the lookup table plus 1, our muscle strength score, gives us a total score here of 3. And we're going to need this. So if you're following along on your sheet, go to table letter C. And circle the 3, because we'll need that later, so you can have it. So I know we skipped table B, but we're going to go back and do that right now, and we take a look at the rest of the posture. Okay, so now I'm on step 9, and we're looking at the deviation of the neck. So if we have no deviation, that's our ears are above
Any
our
ideas what this one would end up being?
+1.
I think 3 plus 3 plus.
Right, so most likely 3.
Deviating 10
But you see,
plus
they want to tell you about the tables feeding back into another table.
4, that's +2.
Yeah.
Right, one table feeds into another one. So this is really time consuming.
If we're extending back, that's a +4. And then you can
Right, the figure is not the same as the mark. We just get it and you add it to the end and it feeds back into another table.
or twisted.
Right, so mostly 3 for this one.
Extreme posture there, I scored this a 3. I think you can pretty easily see that that would be a 3. So the next step is step 10, is we locate the trunk position. So if here's our hip. What's the deviation from hip to shoulder? No deviation, shoulders are over the hips, that'd be a +1. Slight deviation forward, no more than 20 degrees. We have a +2. More extreme deviation, 20 to 60 degrees. We have a +3. And then almost complete forward bending would be our +4. So I scored the trunk. Where would you score it? I scored it a 3. And since the legs are supported, one leg is supported there, and I scored that next step a 1. Okay, so now we're on table B, and that's why this is color-coded, because it makes it so much easier. Our next posture was a 3. Our trunk posture was a 3. Our leg posture was a 1. And where all those come together, it results in a score of a 4. And so now we need this to move on to the next step in the analysis. We have our 4 right here, step 12, which we just got from our lookup table. And now we're looking at muscle loading for the torso, neck, and legs. The posture is held for greater than 10 minutes, and therefore I added a 1. But the loads are small. This person is only picking up towels, and therefore I didn't add anything in there. So our complete neck, trunk, and leg score is 4 from the previous table, 1 for our muscle score, 4 and 1, which is the 5. So we already have our 3, which came from step 8. Now we have our 5, which came from our last step. And where the 3 and the 5 intersect gives us a 4. So it gives us a final RULA score of 4, meaning that this task needs some further evaluation. The RULA gives you an action level, basically a degree of urgency. An action level 1, or a RULA score of 1 to 2, means that the person is working in pretty much the best posture with minimal force or static loading. An action level of 2, or a RULA score of 3 to 4, means that the person is working in a posture that could present some risk of injury from their working posture. And the score most likely is the result of one or more body parts being deviated. So that's something else you can use the RULA worksheet to do, would be then to go back and see what posture is actually driving up that RULA score. And if you remember, the neck posture and the torso postures were pretty extreme. An action level of 3, or a RULA score of 5 or 6, means that the person is working in a very poor posture with the risk of injury, and that we need to investigate this further, whereas an action level 4 means we need to investigate it immediately and put something in place to reduce the risk of injury. So I'm going to have you develop a RULA score for the man in the tan shirt. And hopefully by the time you get to this point in the lecture, I will have uploaded a video for you to take a look at. But I'm going to explain to you what's going on.
All right, so I'll stop this here. Right. So stop that there. Right, you're still there, right? Yes. Okay, right. Okay, I'll stop it there. So what I'll do, I would possibly upload the whole video, because there's a bit of an exercise I mentioned there that she did give to the end, right? So what you're missing would be all of those RULA tables on them, right? So if you're interested in doing that, which I don't really foresee, right, let me just, so I don't really foresee, I don't know what button I click there. You know, a detailed passive as of that set then, right? But if you wanted to give it a try, as I mentioned, you needed to get all of the RULA tables. I'm just trying to get this way down to the bottom there, right? And there was one of it on the slide here, and that was missing for that one, to do a complete RULA analysis. I don't foresee that on our diploma exam, because it was more stuff I know that is covered at the master's level anyway, right? So I guess you can see if you have any questions. Like I said, I can't think of a passive question on this, right? So you needed this sheet if you really wanted to do one, and you needed the sub sheets, that the smaller sheets that she was looking at to do the full assessment. This is just the score sheet anyway, right? So if you didn't quite get all of it, I would say that's okay, because you are not physically doing a RULA assessment. It isn't that hard though. If you play back maybe the videos, see that you get the upper arm score. If it was going to be 2, then you come to this. And if the wrist score is, you know, 4, just making this up, then you pick a figure from here, 8, or what that looks like a 5 or something, and you put that onto your score, right? So you do that for each of them, and you end up with your score today, and then you compare it back to your action chart that RULA has anyway, right? So we are finished with this. If you could spend 12 minutes to, in your book, though, the end of the chapter, so I'll just show them, because I don't think there's anything hard in it. In your book, the end of the chapter, they had the practical controls, and I think these are things that we all know. The practical controls for, like, I mean, once you get a risk assessment, right, the idea is, if it was MAC or VMAC or ART or RULA, right? The thing was that it was a risk assessment score, so you have to reduce the risk. So that's what you find to end it off in your book. I think all those words we know already. The first one you find in the book is elimination, right? Like the ways to eliminate. Next two words are two important words. I had mentioned them to you all before. Mechanization and automation, which is two different things. When you flip the page, you'll see a lot of things that you know before already, like how do you reduce the risk and stuff then, right? Alternative work, better job design, ergonomic design of tools and equipment, workstation design, page 285, right? Job rotation, the other page there. Eye and eyesight testing, which we covered that already, but a lot of practical ways then to kind of, you know, assist with these types of assessment. Please remember that these were all manual handling kind of risk assessment. Doesn't matter if it was RULA. RULA really stands for rapid upper limb assessment. The person is still manually handling something there, right? So how do you control it? You use all those techniques that we know already: elimination, changing the work method, work routine, job rotation. All of those answers are there. And I think that is more likely to be a good question anyway, to end off this, right? So I didn't overdo it on this one, the RULA. I think the video would have showed you this one, but I didn't physically do one. I am kind of feeling bad about it, but I know at the same time, it is not on your syllabus that you do this kind of detailed analysis, right? So with that said, I would stop the recording here, and I would upload this